Now, Gavin, this was pretty big news for me. I'm a huge Last of Us fan. There was a state of play. PlayStation had their state of play last Tuesday where they showed off Last of Us 2, and they weren't shy about it. They announced it, before that it was going to be there. But we got a release date, February 21st, 2020, which is very soon. Did you watch the trailer?
I did. Yeah, gotcha. I thought it was good. I didn't remember it very well because I remember I had to text you and be like, did they show gameplay?
Yeah, it was intermixed with some of the cutscenes and stuff.
Yeah. I know one thing we talked about, which is funny because you're not allowed to spoil it for me, but I remember thinking like the way from how far I got in that game, people kept fucking dying in the story. Like anyone we started to halfway like was dead.
Yeah, it's true.
So I was definitely like, clearly Joel's going to die at the end of the story. He, or somewhere towards the end of the story, he has to die. So seeing Joel in the trailer, he's still alive somehow. I don't know why they separated, or he's a figment of her imagination, which I don't think so. But when I do finally finish that game, if he does die and he is a figment of her imagination, my mind is going to be blown.
Well, yeah, it could be all of that or none of that. I mean,
all of that or none of that.
You really got to play the original. I'm playing. I forgot that I was doing that this weekend as well. I was playing through the original Last of Us.
I feel like that's not just like a game you just casually replay though.
It actually is. I mean, it's a long game, but like once you start getting into it, it's like, oh yeah, I love this game, and just kind of being reminded of it. But
I love wading through garbage water so I can push the board so she doesn't have to go through the garbage water.
Yep. No, that's half of the game. But, I loved The Last of Us, and so I'm super stoked for it. There was a lot to pick apart in the trailer as far as like just story wise. Are we seeing exactly what's going to happen, or are they kind of? There's a term called red herring, where it's like, is this misdirection? Is this showing us what seems like too much to kind of get us off the wrong or the right track?
It could be.
There was some, and I had this kind of feeling as well. So with that trailer, they show Ellie. She has the kind of girlfriend partner that she's into. It seemed very on the nose to show that, oh, she's the one that's going to die, sending you on this like revenge quest. I feel like that was too direct for me to believe that that's what's going to happen. It almost like turned me off. It's like, why are you going to show me that's obviously going to happen?
It didn't look like it was. I didn't think it was revenge for. I think it's because she gets raped. Ellie gets raped.
Really? Oh, I didn't see that. But
you might want to rewatch that trailer because that's clearly what's about to happen.
Maybe. So there's they kind of intentionally black the screen out. Wow. You can tell that she's looking at someone. I imagine she's looking at her partner. They both go to that weird shack and somebody gets shot. I feel like there's a gunshot. Maybe that could happen too in the in between. Something terrible could for sure happen, but it's obvious that something's going to happen to spur this whole revenge thing. Now, is it like the partner, or does something happen to Joel?
Well, I think because Ellie fell down the hole or whatever, and her partner was still up top.
Yeah, they never show her after that, after she goes missing in that like snowy area, but they don't show her again.
Right.
I don't know. I just felt like a little bit of misdirection, or I'm hoping that they're not showing you everything that's going on, because I want to kind of be surprised somewhat. But and then the whole thing with Joel, is he there? Is he not there? He's dramatically older too. So when in this new game when it takes place,
is that not appropriate for? Because he was pretty old in the first game.
So he was like 37ish, maybe. I feel like 40s at the most.
He had gray hair. I mean,
that's true.
I say this as a 31-year-old with gray hair. Like
me too, man. No, but I got the vibe that he was like 40 years old because he was still fit enough to do a lot of this stuff. By 50, you're like pushing it. He's jumping around. He's doing all this traversing.
Right.
I put him at like 40, 37. This Ellie now, it looks like at least 15, 10 years in the future. So he's what, maybe 50, 55? He looked dramatically older in that, like almost 60s. So I don't know what they're doing with that. But
I think that's another weird thing about too is like you think in a place without healthcare, like you can't survive to 60. Yeah. You're lucky if you push 55.
That's true. The world could just be harder on them, so you might not be actually older by much that we're thinking, but the world is just like had a drag on them.
This is when people are going to die of tetanus again.
Yeah, exactly. So I pulled up some GameSpot did all the work, so they had just the various like tidbits about that initial announcement, because they let the press play the game for about 2 to 3 hours, and a lot of the press had in-depth stuff on just reactions and that kind of thing. But there's also news that Naughty Dog put out about the game itself. One big one is that there's no multiplayer this time around too. So now this
and
is...
people love that multiplayer. So
they
that one's
apparently
kind
did.
of surprising me.
I jumped in for a little bit when that game first came out, and it wasn't bad. I'm just, for some reason, I wasn't super into it.
Sure.
In general, I just wanted that single player experience from The Last of Us anyways. But they had a lot of people that were actually pretty excited about that original multiplayer. But so we'll get to that. So The Last of Us Part 2 is Naughty Dog's longest game. According to director Neil Druckmann, The Last of Us Part 2 is Naughty Dog's longest game to date. We began working on this game over 5 years ago, Druckmann wrote in the PlayStation blog post. What we realized pretty early on is that we were putting together Naughty Dog's most ambitious and longest game in our 35-year history. To tell this kind of story, that game needed to be massive. The game spans 2 PS4 discs. The fact that The Last of Us Part 2 is Naughty Dog's longest game seems to fit in line with how the game's physical version spans 2 PS4 discs. It just might be the only physical PS4 game to actually take up that much data. Yeah, I can't think of another release on PS4 that has to, that just
Final Fantasy, and that's about it.
Interesting. Well, just
and that's going to be stupid massive too.
Yeah, there's been debate or drama with that whole remake because the box art was released. I think,
and it doesn't say Part 1.
No, it doesn't. So I don't know what the fuck they're thinking with that.
I think it's going to confuse a lot of people.
Yep. Just kids walking into GameStop with their propeller hats, and they're like, "I want to buy the new Final 7 remake."
All I can picture is you, full grown, in shorts way too short, and we get the suspenders or whatever. Apparently, it's just lederhosen now, and your propeller hat.
And they're, "Sir, please, we keep telling you can't come here." So here's another little excerpt. It will make you feel bad about killing enemies. The original Last of Us didn't shy away from making you reflect on your actions, and the sequel developer Naughty Dog aims to hit that theme even harder. The Last of Us Part 2 has a new, seemingly small detail that could add a lot of weight to each kill. Every human enemy has a name, and they do not like it when you kill their friends, according to co-director Anthony Newman. This was intentional. You can see this from there's not only interpretations of the game of the press, how they felt about playing the game. There's actual you can watch gameplay now, officially gameplay, and so you can see this as the enemies are walking around, and if you kill them as Ellie, they'll get emotional. They're calling out to their buddies that they're missing. So there's a lot of interactions with the enemies. They have their own world with each other, their own connection with each other.
I think that's neat. I do, but at the same time, if they're out to kill me, why? I'm sorry, that sucks.
Right? No, I mean,
but you're out to kill me.
Yeah.
You're still the. I think it'd be really interesting if on top of that, they added in the system from the fuck was this game? I'll never remember the name, but you may remember forever ago there was this game. It was like a city had been taken over by giant dust storms and apocalypse, and you're on the top of these big skyscrapers, and you're going around. But part of it was you could disarm enemies because sometimes they'd be lying. So let's say you go into a room, you pull out your gun. And you have 2 other enemies that also pulled out their guns.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you shoot them. They had no ammo. They weren't going to kill you. They were lying.
Oh, gotcha.
They were trying to scare you. Or, and you could have scared them off, completely not killed them. You didn't gain anything by murdering them.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, it was... it definitely came out.
Was
I remember,
third person, first person?
I think it was third person.
Okay.
I definitely remember when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, well, that's not going to ever exist. And it did, and it was... supposedly pretty cool. So there was a lot of bluffing, and I think if you had that aspect of maybe you shoot somebody and they're sad, and you make them they're surviving too.
Right.
That could add a lot of weight to this, and it'd make you feel shitty for wasting your bullet on top of it. Yeah,
had nothing against you in the first place.
So
I do like that. Yeah, it's not going to make you not continue because you have to keep going in the game. You can't just not kill these people or not do whatever to subdue them, but I just like that it just humanizes. It makes it creates more weight in the world with what you're doing and your actions, and as the AI gets better, that seems natural for the AI to at least talk to itself in a realistic fashion as you're sneaking around, let alone they have these connections that are almost like mini storylines within the enemies themselves. I like that idea a lot. And if you just because that was a component in The Last of Us 2 or the first one where there's dialogue that you can miss if you don't look at Ellie at the right time. I imagine there's dialogue you can miss with these enemies if you're not sneaking around them in the right time to hear this conversation that has all this, weight to it. But
I would love a really over the top, just she was pregnant, you asshole. Oh,
yeah, I think there's 100% going to be stuff like that.
Fuck.
Yeah. because it just makes you think about the fact that in this world, these are real people. So yeah, I mean, there's there's repercussions for what you do. So now they go into detail about this, but the one interesting new addition to this was there's dogs now in the game. So the dogs can like sniff you out and seek you out, and you have to. A big debate online was like, I don't want to kill these dogs, but you can. Apparently, Neil Druckmann confirmed you can sneak around them. There's ways to play the game without having to kill the dogs.
You're gonna outsneak a dog.
Apparently. So it was.
Cool this is a video game.
Well, there was like with the whole hiding aspect, you can trick humans. Simply enough where you can just kind of keep moving, sneak. Right. You can go prone in this game too. But with the dogs, they can always smell you. So it doesn't matter if you're out of sight; they can find your trail, and you can see your own trail that you create in that whole like listen mode. But they're going to find you no matter what. So it just adds another component where you have to kind of keep moving, keep thinking about where you are in the world. But there's dogs, and you can choose to not kill them. But they confirmed how you can, because you're Ellie, you're smaller, you're more nimble, you can fit in between stuff like they showed off in that original trailer. Yeah. So
I'd like to think the way you stealth around a dog is you hold up a giant blanket and they're just looking.
Yeah.
And then you drop it and then you're gone around a corner.
Or you know what? Maybe you can have smelly stuff on you, like meats and whatever.
That's not how dogs' noses work, though, because they can. Really? That's why their noses are so good. So humans, we smell the most dominant smell, or the most dominant top smells, and that's what overcharges our. That's why dogs, they can smell tons of smells all at once.
Gotcha.
Like,
so they can smell that, but the thing they're still looking for, they can still smell the other. It's like an overpower.
Right.
Gotcha.
We just got lame ass. We really do. Like in the animal kingdom, we have like it's got to be one of the worst noses.
Yeah, I mean we evolved to not need it as much, but I mean still it works. But yeah, but
my evolution's still trying to pull out.
You're the key, Gavin. You got the key genes.
I'm the key, just nosing around over here. Inside jokes on a podcast. Hey.
So yeah, overall, I'm super stoked for some Last of Us. Can't wait. I got to get you playing The Last of Us, the original. You got to play it.
But I'm not going to be able to play this game. They just said it's their biggest, most ambitious game ever. I'm never going to finish that.
What?
I've only ever finished the only game I've ever finished of those, and I own like 3 of their games.
Like the Uncharted series
is Uncharted 2.
Gotcha. That was maybe one of the best ones. That was
really awesome. Good, but like I think I started Uncharted 3, like never even got close. Like,
really?
Last of Us, but to be fair, that was partially my PlayStation's fault.
It was picking up and hovering from the fans.
Right, it was.
Yeah. Now I'm told you I'm willing to let you borrow this PS4 for as long as you need to play the game. All right,
it's gonna be 18 years.
I just want to get I really want you, because I know once it latches onto your brain, you're gonna be hooked for sure. Some of the best storytelling I've ever.
Joel was a ghost the whole time.
Yeah, there's a red doorknob, and then you find out. Crazy.
Wait, is there a red doorknob in that movie?
No, there was
M. Night Shyamalan one.
Yeah, that was the whole with Bruce Willis, who was a ghost. Spoilers, but yeah, there was a red doorknob, and he was a ghost, and that's all I remember.
Could he not turn the doorknob?
Yeah, that was part of it. There's
I'm
a door.
Too much of a ghost. I should probably watch this movie. Like it's one of his good ones.
Yeah, that's one of his good ones.
And I don't think it's going to matter that I know about the twist. I think it'd be one of those ones where, especially like the one that killed my sister, like she doesn't do it on purpose, but she spoils everything.
Is that where you get your desire to watch the end of stuff?
No, absolutely. I've been mad about her ever since. Like I remember I started Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, when he dies at the end, I'm what? So like Fight Club was a huge one. I'm like, man, I wish I didn't know he was just his imagination this whole time.
Gotcha. See, I think I knew that going in just from hearing from other people, but that's one of my favorite movies. I love.
Yeah. But, so going into M. Night,
knowing that he's dead.
Sixth Sense, that might.
It's still a really well done movie, but
right.
Yeah. So Gavin, Last of Us will eventually arrive